As excited as I am to see my favorite jobs grow and evolve with each new expansion, I'm just as excited to see what new jobs and experiences the team can bring to life. Endwalker brings us the Sage, a Gundam-inspired shield healer based in Sharlayan science and damage dealing, and the Reaper, a melee damage dealer born from angry Garlean botanists making pacts with voidsent. The first of these jobs I'll be focusing on is the Reaper while I continue to level my Sage. Reaper's primary feature is the voidsent avatar that forms the core of both Reaper's identity and damage rotation. Their rotation varies quite a bit from most other jobs in that many of their skills provide some sort of resource in exchange for another. The core loop consists of using your basic combos of Slice, Waxing Slice, and Inferno Slice for single target, or Spinning Scythe and Nightmare Scythe for AoE to build Soul Gauge. Spending Soul Gauge on abilities like Bloodstalk, Grim Swath, or Gluttony gives the Soul Reaper buff, enabling the use of weapon skills Gibbet, Gallows, and Guillotine. After using Gibbet or Gallows, the other skill becomes enhanced, and Bloodstalk transforms into the unveiled version of the enhanced skill. For example, using Gibbet will turn Bloodstalk into unveiled Gallows, and Gallows will be enhanced, granting potency bonus to both. When the Reaper lands any Soul Reaper skill, they gain Shroud Gauge. This is a separate resource below the Soul Gauge that is spent on Enshroud. Enshroud offers your flesh to your avatar, gaining 5 stacks of Limmer Shroud to use on powerful weapon skills that make up the burst phase of Reaper's rotation. In single target, the avatar allows the use of Void Reaping and Cross Reaping. Like Gibbet and Gallows, using one will enhance the other. In AoE situations, Grim Reaping is used instead. All of these weapon skills have a short 1.5 second recast timer, meaning that the avatar phase is a fast-paced frenzy of slashes and spectacle. Using any reaping skill converts your Limmer Shroud stacks into Void Shroud stacks that are spent on Limmer Slice and Limmer Scythe abilities, each costing 2 Void Shroud stacks. At level 90, Reaper gains Communio as the finisher for the avatar burst window. In most normal encounters, an avatar phase will consist of Void Reaping, then Cross Reaping, with a Limmer Slice weaved afterwards. Void Reaping, Cross Reaping, and Limmer Slice are repeated a second time, and the phase is ended with Communio. Being the first melee damage dealer introduced in Stormblood Samurai, Reaper features quite a bit more party utility than might be expected at first glance. This party utility has a bit of a selfish flair, however, creating a unique feel that fits the job's aesthetic very nicely. For defensive utility, Reaper has access to the new Feint, as well as Arcane Crest. Feint has been upgraded for all the melee jobs to include a reduction in magical damage by 5% with Endwalker, but still keeps its original niche with a 10% damage reduction to physical damage. This provides some coverage for raid-wide attacks where the party is unsure which damage type is at play, or where the party is taking different types of damage simultaneously. Arcane Crest is an ability that places a barrier on the Reaper. When that barrier breaks, the party receives a buff called Crest of Time Returned, restoring HP over time. The Crest is a great method of helping the healers restore the party after a devastating raid-wide attack. For offensive utility, Reaper offers Arcane Circle. Arcane Circle is a flat 3% damage increase for the whole party. However, the Reaper asks for something in return in the form of Circle of Sacrifice buff. When a party member performs a weapon skill or casts a spell under the effect of Circle of Sacrifice, the Reaper gains a stacking buff called Immortal Sacrifice that they can then use to pay for Reaper's level 88 skill, Plentiful Harvest. Plentiful Harvest is a powerful AoE attack akin to Bard's Apex Arrow that gains potency per stack of Immortal Sacrifice consumed, as well as granting 50 Shroud Gauge, allowing the Reaper to jumpstart their rotation into their avatar phase. Reaper draws many favorable comparisons to its contemporaries. The Avatar phase feels like a faster version of Warrior's old inner release window, but has a much more generous time frame. The mutually beneficial nature of its party utility really reminds me of Dancer's interactions with Esprit, and the way it juggles buffs and resources really feels like a fast melee version of Red Mage. As for more direct comparisons to its fellow melee damage dealers, Reaper is a rather simple job when compared to fellow maiming job Dragoon. While it does appear to be balancing many plates between the Soul Gauge, Shroud Gauge, the Death's Design debuff, and its many enhanced abilities, many of these aspects do not directly compete with each other. Soul Gauge grants Shroud Gauge, and the enhanced abilities naturally guide you towards using one skill over the other. None of these aspects complicate your basic 1-2-3 combo either, unlike Dragoon. Reaper shares the same general rotational flow as Ninja, with a frenetic burst phase, followed by a simple cooldown period between bursts. Where Reaper differs from Ninja, however, is how the burst window is a bit more flexible due to being governed governed by a gauge rather than a timer. I find Reaper's movement options fairly limited compared to Ninja, as Hell's Ingress and Hell's Egress are both limited by having a set distance and a shared timer between the two. The use of regress to enable more back and forth movement, however, provides added utility that rewards players who can quickly do the math to ensure they depart and arrive at the proper coordinates. Coming from my recent examination of Monk, I find the limited use of Reaper's kit both refreshing and a bit disappointing. Many of Reaper's skills are dependent on spending gauges and stacks to even be available for use. This can be restrictive to players looking to express themselves, but it can also lead to a more streamlined combat flow that is easier to learn. I praised Monk's openness and how the job repurposes its basic rotation for future mechanics, but that can also provide players with too many options that do not present a clear path to learning or optimization. Choosing incorrect weapon skills during Reaper's branching paths only reduces the damage dealt, with no impact on burst timings or accruing resources. Comparing Reaper to Samurai, both fit fairly straightforward base rotation that benefit heavily from skill and optimization. Samurai's adherence to a tight minute-long cycle is commonly cited as one of its drawbacks, and Endwalker does quite a bit to address it through extra charges on most of its strict skills. Samurai still lacks party utility, however, and makes Reaper a great alternative for Samurai mains looking to expand their horizons. Final Fantasy struck gold in the last few expansions with drastic improvements in job design and aesthetics. The new jobs added with each expansion are no exception to this observation. Reaper in particular has been a standout for me personally and a blast to play. While I'm leery of trying to main a new job as its popularity often leads to difficulty finding groups, Reaper's definitely staying on my radar long term. How have you been enjoying Endwalker's job so far? Are you going to give Reaper a shot or wait and see if everyone vacates the hype train? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, click the thumb or consider a sub. If you want to check out more content, links are in the description for Twitch, Twitter, and the community Discord. If you're curious about how classic jobs have fared in Endwalker, check out my thoughts on Bard here.